Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Dune, and this movie is directed by Denis Villeneuve, and this is a remake off of the David Lynch film from 1984, and I thought this movie was a huge improvement over the original, but I am going to mention one little thing, and I do not consider this a spoiler, but this is just in case people don't know. This movie is split into two parts, so this is basically Dune Part 1. And as a standalone film, I think it was good. I liked it. I'm interested to see where they go, and I'm actually curious about how this universe works. And while I do have my own issues with it, I'm interested to see what happens next, even though technically I kind of do because I've seen the David Lynch film, which I've reviewed that on my channel already, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, then go right ahead. But I don't remember much about it, and I don't feel as though me having seen the 84 Dune is going to ruin part 2 too much, because I have a feeling that they're going to do a lot more than what the original film did, simply because it's going to be a total 5 hours long, part 1 and part 2. That's just a guess. I have no idea if part 2 is going to be 2.5 hours long or longer. But I'm not upset with what I got from just half of the story, and I thought the performances were really good, and Oscar Isaac was great. I really loved Rebecca Ferguson, and the characters are not super deep, but I liked the journey that they went through, and I liked a lot of stuff that was being set up, and there were some things that were being paid off, and the action was fun, and I liked the relationship that our main character Paul has with certain other characters, like with Jason Momoa or Josh Brolin, and has a training scene that I thought was kind of fun, and the movie does give you a good sense as to the relationship between Jason Momoa and Paul, and while I don't think the comedy works very well in this film, I do feel as though the relationship is well established. They're good friends, and that's what I like about it. And that's all you really need to know. I thought the production was really great, and I never felt as though I was watching characters on a set, and the effects in the movie were great. For the most part, there were some effects that were not so great, but most of them were great from memory, and there's some, I guess, flash forward sequences, I'll say, or dream sequences, or visions, however you want to call them, but some of them were a bit distracting, and I'm like, do we really need that? Other times I thought it worked well, and it was interesting what I was being shown, and there's violence in this movie, and it's a bit more violent than I was expecting, and I had low expectations because it was PG-13, but there was a lot more blood than I was expecting, especially for a PG-13 movie, and there's lots of blood on people's hands and swords. They have blood on the swords, and they just wipe it off with their hands or a towel or whatever, and wow, that's a lot of blood in a PG-13 movie. And it's not super violent, it's not disgusting, it's just, it makes these actions feel as though they have consequences. And this movie also looks very nice, it's very well shot, and I liked the design of a lot of things, and the ships looked cool, and I'm trying not to compare this maybe too much to the David Lynch film, but there were moments that definitely reminded me of it, and the putting your hand in the box that makes you feel pain, that's in both versions, and the worm, the sandworm thing, attacking the one thing, I don't even remember when they're trying to get the spice. That's in both versions, and there's plenty of things that are in both versions from memory, but I just think everything is much better executed in this movie as opposed to that other film. One thing that I really liked about this movie as opposed to the original, I'm sorry for comparing the two a lot, but this is just something that I really appreciated. From memory, in the 84 film, there were a lot of things happening and I could barely keep track as to like what the story was and where things were going, and it was like really impossible for me to keep up, and that might not be the case for other people, but for me that was an issue. Here, everything is slowed down a lot, and despite the 2.5 hour runtime, I didn't mind the runtime too much, and I wasn't bored for the most part, and I was able to let everything soak in, and there were lots of really good scenes that I can remember, and the story, since everything's so much slower now, it lets me it allows me to like not only get interested in certain little things sprinkled throughout the movie, but also let me get a good understanding of the characters and the world building and all that kind of stuff. And that's one of the movie's biggest strengths, in my opinion. Going back to the violence in the movie, I was kind of pulled out a little bit in wondering why the movie wasn't rated R, because I feel as though if it wasn't afraid to show off the violence, then it would be a bit better for me and more immersive and make me feel as though the action has a lot more consequence than what we eventually got. And I'm not upset with what we got, but I feel as though if it were rated R and it wasn't afraid to show off these things, then I think it would have been more effective. But I can understand the decision to hold back and go to PG-13, because Denis Villeneuve's previous movie, Blade Runner 2049, that was both a rated R and almost 3 hours long, and it didn't do very well financially. So my guess is the decision, they wanted to give this movie a bigger audience by allowing it to appeal to more people, and they had like a very recognizable cast, like lots of big names, like Oscar Isaac, Timothy Chalamet, Jason Momoa, Rebecca Ferguson, etc. And I think that's what got people to watch it, and that helped this movie work better financially, in my opinion, and the way I see things. And while that's a little sad, I understand the decision, and I thought the villain of the movie worked fine. He wasn't the worst thing ever, he wasn't the best thing ever, he was in the middle for me. Without spoiling anything, there were supposed to be emotional beats, and not all of them hit for me. There were some that really worked, and I thought those were some of the best scenes in the movie. But there were a couple of points where like something consequential happened to a character, and I didn't really care all that much. The music in the movie was a bit hit or miss for me. Sometimes it worked pretty well, but there were moments in the movie where it was kind of distracting, and whenever a ship took off, it made this like really loud wow sound effect. I was like, what are we doing here? This is too much. This is too much. And there were moments where the music was not complementing the scene very well, and I'm probably not going to listen to the score independently of, like outside of the movie, like on its own. Even though I thought it worked well in the movie, not entirely, but in certain parts. And like I mentioned already, the runtime, I wasn't 100% with it. I was like 90% with it, which isn't saying a whole lot, like in terms of complaints. And the comedy, it didn't work for me. And that's not really a big complaint because there's not a lot of comedy in the movie. It takes up like a total of 1 minute of screen time, if even that. Just kind of small things that bugged me a little bit. Overall, it's a good movie. I don't love it, but it is very interesting to me. I am curious to see where it goes. I was actually surprised as to how interested I was when it came to wanting to explore this universe, I was actually kind of shocked. Because after that original film, I had no interest, and with this film, I do have interest, and I just feel as though there's more to it than, I guess, if it was in the hands of another director. Well, not any other director, but definitely most directors probably couldn't make this movie as good as it would be if it was in the hands of somebody else. And I think that's what makes this movie work for me. And I liked the story, well, the amount that we got, and I liked the performances. I liked what I was being shown visually, and there's a lot to appreciate within the movie when it comes to like technical qualities. And the music worked at points, sometimes it didn't, and the violence was surprising to me, and some of the action, when we do get action, it's fun. It's just kind of a fun universe for me, and check this movie out. If you don't want to check it out yet and you're waiting for part 2 to come out, I'm not going to blame you, but I was originally planning on watching this movie right before part 2 came out, so I could watch both back to back, but as time went on, I just thought about it more and more. I'm like, I'll just see how it is now, and then I'll revisit part 1 and then do the part 1, part 2 back to back. And that's kind of my plan to do. I'll probably do that when part 2 comes out. So who knows, maybe as a whole it'll get better or worse depending on the quality of part 2. But for now, I'm going to give Dune Part 1 a 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of Dune, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for How to Train Your Dragon 2. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.